time aboard. This is the Miles to Go podcast. And now here's your host, Ed Pizza.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Miles to Go podcast. Mr. Kerr and I are home, if only for a brief moment. I am back out on the road on Monday. Mr. Kerr, I think you're home all the way till Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's going to be a glorious week on the road. Maybe one of my roughest weeks on the road this past week, which we'll get into more in a little bit. But topics we're going to cover today, places in the world that I had never heard of prior to this. We're going to be talking about Dakhla. More
Western
on that.
Sahara or Morocco?
Yeah, sure.
The decision is up to you.
The decision is up to you. We're going to talk about a little bit about Hilton's late checkout benefit, because I have some curious questions for you there. American Airlines has some pretty aggressive status offers out in the market that I want to touch on. And just because of the virtues of timing, we get to talk about rent day, which doesn't happen very often. We could talk about it in a future sense, because when this episode drops, you will have roughly a day to act on this month's rent day promo.
You'll have 51 hours. 51 hours.
It really depends on what time I drop the episode, though, since Wednesday is the Freddie Awards and we'll be scrambling around for last-minute preparations. You're assuming I'm dropping the episode early.
Like
but
Disney,
we're not sure.
You're always on time. And if you're on property with it, 30 minutes early.
We also have a question from one of our Slack members, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And in breaking news, a mere 26 minutes before we recorded, we received breaking news that we'll be sharing in the show, Mr. Kerr.
Yes. You were kind enough to share this with me ahead of time before, so I don't...
I thought about not sharing it with you ahead of time, which I really leaned in that direction, but my benevolence shone through this morning. And so
Sean and benevolence. Wow. I guess it is Sunday, so we should be using words like that. But
yeah, there you go. All right, well, let's talk about your incredible good luck. I hope that you bought a Mega Millions or a Powerball ticket, whichever one is applicable in your state, because quite frankly, the track record of on-time departures on your Delta flights is nothing short of stupendous this year. And as your travel continues to defy logic, I want to ask you, Mr. Kerr, who at Delta did you piss off to end up with so many delays?
If you're watching YouTube, you see me pulling up the Flighty app, so we get the real tracked data, ladies and gentlemen. Not embellished, not overzealous, the real data here. I am looking at a total this year of 13 delays for my flights out of, how many legs am I at now?
14?
No, 30. 30 flights, 14 delays. So we are 13. So 13 out of 30, just underneath 50%. Overall, that is a stressful place to be. When I time my flights, I have said over and over again on this podcast, as a matter of efficiency. I do not want to be gone from home a second longer than I have to be. I do not want to be on the road a second longer than I have to be. I have meetings scheduled to maximize the efficiencies. And when almost half of my flights are always delayed, it's really freaking hard to do that. I switched to Delta in order to make sure this didn't happen, because traditionally Delta operations, especially here in the home hub of Atlanta, have been fantastic. You book a Delta flight, unless there's a tornado or a hurricane or an act of God, those Delta flights are going to take off on time. That has not been my experience, man. So now 24 Delta legs, most delayed airline Delta, and I am counting out of those 13 delays, 11. So 11 out of 24 delays. And some of these, you might call insignificant, less than arriving 15 minutes late. However, I will call out to you, the padding of the schedule is so ridiculous that if you are still 15 minutes late, you're really about 45 minutes late. Beyond that, I have a 2.5 hour delay. I had a 2-hour delay coming home from Minneapolis, a hub-to-hub route where weather was not a factor until we got on the ground in Atlanta. And I just see 45, 40, what's going on, man? I don't know. I have, obviously, as I've talked about many times, the rival dads here who are Delta pilots, Delta corporate staff, and they're just like, oh, man, you're getting unlucky. And I'm like, unlucky would be 3 or 4 out of 22. But, 11 is not unlucky. This is now a pattern. Not sure what happened. So flying home from Minneapolis, everything looked great. On time, tracking the flight app as always. Inbound flight taking off from RSW, Fort Myers, Florida, Southwest. Heading up to Minneapolis. Is going to land an hour before departure time. Wonderful. I'm going to get home in time to see the kids who I have not seen since Monday. This is on Friday. And then when you know it, man, on the way up to Minneapolis, you get the inbound tail numbers changed. Still an A321, but new tail number. Followed immediately by a flight delay. They changed it to a flight departing Las Vegas for Minneapolis that was not going to land until 30 minutes after departure time. Then you've got to deplane an entire A321. Then you've got to clean it, clean.
Yeah.
Your aircraft is sanitized and ready for boarding. I'm like, bullshit, Delta. Like that's just like. And then yeah, man, we end up, again over an hour and 15 minutes late departing the gate. And then by the time we got on the ground, a huge line of thunderstorms. Thankfully, we made it. Super bumpy descent, blowing through this very thin line of thunderstorms. But we taxied for an hour. I'll share the screenshot with Jeremiah because I've never seen anything like this. Never seen anything like this in Atlanta before. We land. I'm really not paying attention because once you land in Atlanta, ladies and gentlemen, that place they've built some new taxiways that go behind the runways, so you're not even waiting to cross runways anymore. We stopped. And I heard the engines power down, but I knew we weren't at the gate yet. We were about literally number 50 in line to ground taxi to get to the gate. They had a line all the way around the horseshoe, I call it now, that goes behind the end of the runway, so you don't have to wait to cross. And it was just wild. Sat there for an hour before we got to the gate. Again, unless you're flying Frontier, nothing like that happens in Atlanta, where there's, Delta has 8 gajillion gates. And it was just, once again, man, another miserable flight experience. I did not get home to see Thomas and Mary in time before they fell asleep. And it's just so irritating, man. And like, I am over it, dude. I am in such a foul mood still 2 days later. It's It should be a 2-hour flight home. No big deal. But here we are again, just making a pigsty out of it. And I don't understand it. It's way over scheduled. They cannot pull these ops off. And there's just no repercussions whatsoever where the rest of us, if we operated our personal lives or our business lives in this manner, would be held to task by somebody and allowed to exist. Instead, they're like, oh, sorry, it was weather. That's why now they can blame it on weather. I'm like, no, we would not have hit that weather if there was not an hour and 15-minute delay for which there was no explanation given for. Stop doing that. I don't want your 5,000 sky miles. That doesn't make it any better. I just want to take off and land on time so that my life can be 50% less stressful. And dude, I am so over it, man. Like I am just so over this nonsense that I just cannot do it anymore. And it's just driving me freaking insane, man. I was not having a good day Friday. I was texting Emily, who had left Minneapolis early and was on a girls' trip, and I was like, I am not doing very well today. Like, I just want a flight to be on time. I just want to get home. I just want to see Thomas and Mary, and it's not going to happen now. And that's my soapbox, man. But I'm telling you, there's nothing more miserable right now, as you know, than being a domestic road warrior. It is so miserable that I'm at my wits' end, man. And I literally, like, we're supposed to go to the Freddy's this week, and all I'm doing for the next 72 hours is dreading what should be a very simple hour-and-a-half flight to Chicago. Somehow it's going to be a mess, no matter what I do, no matter how proactive I try and be. It's unbelievable, dude. I'm so sick of it.
There's a lot to unpack there, Mr. Kerr. I'm certainly going to start by saying I appreciate your optimism that that you think that just with your Delta delays going away that you would be 50% less stressed out. But I will say, I do think the system is stressed. I was in Atlanta on Monday in my whirlwind week. Flight down Atlanta wasn't bad. What I'm seeing is DCA, ever since the crash, is really just a hot mess. And so they have enough departure and arrival slots if everything's perfect. And if a butterfly wanders across the wrong arrival path, everything just starts to cascade. And so we got out of our meetings in the late afternoon. And this is one of those things. I got to say, I mean, I know we've talked about it a bunch on the show, but both you and I had a better chance of arriving on time this week because of Flighty. In your case, Spirit wouldn't sell you the ticket when you got the plane.
That whole thing, man.
But let's be honest, you wouldn't have even have known to sprint for Flighty because Delta didn't post a delay for a while there. No. And in my case, there was no delay posted on my flight in a DCA, but what Flighty is doing is they're estimating what your takeoff slot is, and my takeoff slot, once again, was 2 hours later than my departure time, and so we bailed for an earlier flight as well. So I think, look, maybe I'm starting to see some softness on my flights. Maybe if they pull down a little bit of the schedule that they're talking about, United's talking about parking some planes, Americans talking about reducing some flights here and there. Maybe that helps this, but it kind of sucks to be a road warrior right now.
I tell you, so I'd put Mrs. Kerr on the Spirit flight nonstop Minneapolis to Atlanta the day before again, so she came back for the girls' trip. Absolutely no problems. It was fine. Yep. Great deal. I got her the comfy package, which is right below the big front seat. She was like, I don't care. You don't need to pay an extra $100 for big front seat and Wi-Fi. Like, I don't care. And it was like $200, and I bought it 24 hours in advance, and she got the middle seat blocked in a carry-on bag, and again, perfectly fine and on time. Wonderful. I knew that flight was operating the next day, so I was actually connecting from Rochester, Minnesota, and I sprinted off that plane after, again, and I got to the Spirit Gate about 20 minutes before departure, and I knew that my Delta flight was delayed. I knew the inbound flight was forever delayed. I had called and got myself on standby for the flight leaving about an hour later, but even as a platinum dude, I was number 20 on the standby list, and there were like three seats left.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not even getting on this flight. Like, instead of getting home walking in the door at 6:45, it's now going to be at almost midnight. I pleaded with that Spirit Gate agent. If you guys remember, about a year ago, I did the same thing on a Frontier flight out of Houston, and they sold me a ticket at the gate, and I got on board and got home way earlier than United was going to be able to get me home. Tried the same thing, dude. I don't know what the policy is. Would love to dig into this further. We all obviously know that Spirit takes credit card transactions at the gate because they check for carry-on bags and check bags all the time. So processing a credit card and payment at the gate is no problem whatsoever. I said, I know this is unusual. My Delta flight is now an hour delayed, and I know it's just a rolling delay. I know it's going to be more delayed. I really need to get home. Can I buy a ticket? And she was like, nope, can't buy a ticket. Got to go to the ticket desk, the ticket counter out. And I was like, again, in my head, maybe that's the policy, but this lady particularly just seems to be in a rush to close out the flight. That's great. She wants to be on time, but we still have 20 minutes, and there's 3 other Spirit staff members at this desk. She was not working solo ops by any means. And I again said, yes, ma'am, I understand. I can't make it to the ticket counter and back through security before you close the gate. I would really like to get home. I'm telling you, I really don't care what you need to charge me right now. I just want to go home. She was like, I'm not selling you a ticket. Go to the ticket counter. And I was like, I can't get there back. And she was done talking to me, and I could tell that this was now an in conversation. Dude, I stood there 15 minutes later, again, waiting to see if I saw anybody with a manager or supervisor or somebody else from Spirit would come to the gate, because this was like their last flight of the day as far as I could tell out of Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Just to see if I could press my luck one more time. They closed the gate. I stood there and watched that Spirit plane push back, and it was my lowest point on the road so far this year, knowing that it was going to beat the storm line that I knew was coming, and that I was now going to go sit in the Minneapolis airport for another 3 hours. But by the time I could have been walking in the door, and at the back of my head, I'm just thinking, again, everybody knows I love low cost carriers. I have no problem flying Spirit. I actually enjoy it. You are going bankrupt, and I, as a customer, am telling you, I don't care what it costs. Here's my credit card. I want to go home. And you guys are like, nah, we're good. I'm like, I don't. Again, this is $300 is not going to save Spirit's situation right now. But, would love to know if anybody's ever had an experience like I had at Frontier, where you can buy a ticket at the gate. And again, they run credit card transactions 1,000%. Why couldn't you say? And I almost bought it when I was sitting in Rochester, Minnesota, but that flight got delayed. We taxied back, and I was like, I can't pull the trigger on this, because Spirit definitely doesn't do free cancellation in 24 hours unless you're 7 days out. That I was like, if I pull the trigger on this and we continue to sit on this tarmac here in Rochester and I don't make this flight, I am literally out at the $300. So I cannot risk that unless I know I'm going to make the flight.
Yeah.
And I should have just pulled the trigger and filed an insurance claim or something, man. But, maybe shame on me. But again, we pulled back from the gate on time in Rochester, and then we sat on the deck for over 30 minutes waiting to take off. And I was like, I
don't know. That's a shame on you. That's a tough call to make. Obviously, with free refunds, you just book it, which I think honestly is the biggest change to come about in the airline industry in probably a decade. Is getting rid of most of the change and cancellation fees. But to your point, Spirit still has them. So
yeah,
I want to shine a little bit of a brighter light on your day, Mr. Kerr. And I know that
maybe reflect off my bald head and make it bright for both of us.
It will. And I know you're already aware of what I'm about to read, but I want to make you feel a little bit better. So maybe reading it the second time will make you feel better. As I mentioned, just a mere 20 plus minutes before recording this Sunday morning, I got an email from Sandra, I don't know how to pronounce, but she even titled the email subject line "Sunday Morning Lady." So perfect setup. Couldn't be any better. Richard and I were recording on Sunday morning. Sandra's nice enough to send us this note. Ed and Richard, hello. I am the Sunday morning lady who made a light-hearted jab at Richard, which, by the way, editorializing here on Ed's part, I absolutely loved, when his picture didn't quite match my mental image of him based on his voice. This comment came up a couple of weeks ago again, and I just wanted to let you know that no offense was meant for Mr. Kerr. I just thought that more facial hair would be involved somehow. So we're going to hold that comment for some other day.
I teach you.
if it's any consolation, Ed's picture was exactly what I thought he would look like. I think that was an insult.
That's almost meaner than the first comment she made.
It could be, yeah, it very well could be. We could have another email coming from Sandra now to apologize for telling me I look exactly like my voice. I'm not sure. Anyway, I do want to thank you again for a fantastic podcast. It is part of my Sunday morning routine when I do chores around the house. I've learned a great deal from you both as I am now an empty nester and have more time to travel. In fact, I'll be taking a trip out west next week and I'm planning the itinerary now. I appreciate the fact that you are very consistent and rarely miss a week. You are also much more honest than other travel podcasts out there. Keep doing what you're doing and have a fabulous week. Mr. Kerr, I just want to point out one thing only in Sandra's email, because I think everything that she says about you is 100% correct, especially because you have the same amount of peach fuzz, like, a cat licking off of your face, with a good bowl of milk, like you've had since the day I met you. So I don't even know if you can really grow a beard. But I do want to point out, just because it's a little bit of a nit, we have never missed a week on this show.
I was about to say,
it's not rarely.
I was about to say, I think Ed's got about a 6-year streak going on here, so never missing a week. It's very.
I drove home from.
She's going to write us another email.
I drove home from Tokyo to record in the 2 hours that I had at home before I ever headed back out of the road last week, just to keep that streak alive, Mr. Kerr.
Yes, he did. Yeah. Look, thanks for the notes. I think think it's wonderful. I just thought it was hilarious that, and now I went from bearded ball bunion hero to just Richard. I can't grow a beard.
I don't believe you.
I do trim it every other day. It gets a little scraggly, but as I said, from the day that I left active duty Navy, I was never shaving my face again. That's for a little bit of PTSD, because in basic training, they give you 30 seconds to shave with cold water and just a government-issued single-blade razor, and everybody just hacks their face up as fast as you can with the Marine screaming at you. So I don't like shaving my face. It brings me back to those days, all these many years later. But thank you for the notes, Sandra. I appreciate it. I'm glad that we make your Sunday morning that much better as you do that housework. And now you have an empty nest and you get to go travel and you're headed out west. So we'd love to hear where you're going, what points and miles you're using, or what low-cost carrier you're flying, because everything's a sweet deal.
And I just thank you for providing me a little bit of humor this morning, Sandra. I'm very thankful. Very thankful. So that's a good spot to do a little bit of housekeeping, and then we'll dig into some topics. Mr. Kerr, if you want to text us, leave us a voicemail. 571-293-6659. He is at Kerr Points on all those social media channels, even with that little bit of peach fuzz. I am at Pizza in Motion. TikTok still exists, so Miles to Go podcast can be found on both TikTok and Instagram. And just like Sandra did this morning, you can email us, ed@pizzainmotion.com, and I will be sure to get all of your missives straight to Mr. Kerr in mere minutes after they arrive. We'll talk a little bit about the Slack community in a minute, but Mr. Kerr, since we have this unique opportunity, which does not present itself very often, I think it's time for you to tell us a little bit about Southwest and Bilt's Rent Day for May 1st this year.
Yeah, really excited about our 19th transfer partner over at Southwest Rapid Rewards. 19. It's getting to be a lot. Was not the transfer partner to be announced that I think a lot of people thought. I'm not going to go into detail on that.
Hey, who hit that button?
We still don't know, actually. It's the weird part. But look, we've had this in works for a very long time. Southwest, we've obviously talked about a lot of recently on the podcast. You and Julian did an entire episode. Is it going to look a little bit different than it does now? Is it going to look a lot different than it does now? Yes. Do they still have a strong route network that many millions of people are going to fly? Yes, they do. Do I want to make it easier regardless of how you travel to make it easier and less costly to travel? Yes, I do. So Southwest is an absolute no-brainer to add to our network, the first transfer partner outside of Chase. And like we said in the announcement, promotions and unique capabilities are not far behind. In exactly 24 hours, I sent out later after we announced it, I sent out a note that said, hey, we're going to do up to 100% transfer bonus on May 1st only based on your Bilt status. Look, man, I am taking advantage of this big time personally. I am dumping a sizable amount of my Bilt points because I have Bilt Platinum status earned, again, not given to Bilt employees, earned a Bilt Platinum status to get 200% of or 100% 2x miles or points into my Rapid Rewards account. There's just still, even with a much smaller route network in Atlanta, they still have, I think, almost 20 nonstop destinations. And my family and I, Orlando being one of those, will certainly take advantage of getting down there for $5.60 per person per leg. So really excited. I can tell you there's even more coming with Southwest. I think that we're all going to learn a little bit as Southwest continues and as the Southwest team themselves have been very open about, hey, look, we're still going to learn as we go here, but they are so open to do some cool things. again, 100% transfer bonus to Southwest. Let's just not forget. I need everybody to remember here. This is
some people
the
forget this.
4th month in a row that we have had up to 100% transfer bonus. And again, if you are a brand new Bilt member, you are still getting what everybody else does with all the other ones of 25%. You know what Amex, Chase, and Citi do that is lauded across the blogs and things. Like, let's just not forget how ridiculous it is that we're able to do this month after month after month. And like we promised when we said we're going to lower the rent day cap, but we're going to make rent days even better. And look, we got even cooler stuff coming later this year. But very excited for Southwest. Very excited for that transfer opportunity. Very excited for May 1st, the day after this comes out, for everybody to take advantage of it. And I literally am going to be taking huge advantage of this, as Thomas and I are going to chase the Braves to a few away games so we can go see some new cities, and that the entire family can get down to Orlando for some Disney trips for free. So very excited about this, man.
I thought the Brave season was over. Anyway, I digress.
We have won 7 out of 8. We are 12-14. We won in the 10th inning last night, and we're back, baby. We're going just like the Atlanta Falcons after the draft. Way to get that A+ grade, Falcons. Way to get some defense. I'm excited about this season.
Who gave you an A+ grade for that draft?
I did. So
yeah, well, Mr. Kerr, expert. I will say this one was an easy one for me, just because unfortunately Southwest really doesn't have a lot of destinations out of Dulles for me. I wish they did, because I think they have a very efficient point-to-point network, and I just, I think they're easy to travel on. What I did think was interesting was our good buddy Gary Leff. Like, you really put him in a bind here, and I think this is one of those things where, you referenced that they're 4th month in a row with a big transfer bonus, and I think this is the thing that's like, it's almost comical to see some people sort of torment themselves. So Gary's like, well, maybe I should have gone all in on British Airways last month. I'm not sure, and Southwest is, the biggest carrier out of my home airport of Austin, so I think I should dump a bunch of points in. But now I'm not sure what Richard's going to do next month, and so I'm not sure if I should go in all in Southwest or if I should wait for something else. And I think that's, I'm like, I gotta laugh about it, because I sometimes feel the same way. Like, when British Airways came up, I'm like, man, like, this is a really good opportunity, but maybe, like, what's next? And so I'm thankful that I at least get to take a breath this month, because without Southwest having a huge network out of Dulles, I'm not going to transfer. But I think there's a lot of value here, and especially because, at least in this next, call it, 6 to 9 months, you're going to start to have access to extra legroom seats and not have to pay for them. I don't know, like you said, I don't know what Southwest is going to look like in 26 or 27. I'm not saying they're going to look bad, but clearly there's some value there over the next 6 to 9 months where you can get some of this stuff for free and with a fixed, fairly fixed currency. I know there's some variability that they're talking about coming forward, but with a fixed currency, being able to get double the value, I mean, it's a pretty solid deal if you're Bilt Platinum. And I go back to something I said last week, which is these offers continue to give the right incentive to shoot for Bilt Platinum status, because you're really able to maximize the points that you earn and turn them into something much bigger. So there you have it, Mr. Kerr, my opinion.
At a minimum value, very minimum value now for Southwest, you're at least getting 2 cents per point if you're Bilt Platinum and transferring it 2x. Up to, I think, 3.2 is 1.6 is kind of where the highest I've seen for Rapid Rewards. So again, we're excited about it. So much more coming this year for Bilt. We keep saying that, but we keep delivering. We just announced redeem points to cover student loans at 1 cent per point. We just announced student housing is going to be a part of our network, where students in college can earn points paying their rent.
Just in time for my daughter to move off campus. Thank you.
Well, now she can still get the card and mail her landlord a check or pay in the ACH.
Mm-hmm.
We just announced paying your rent with any card and getting that card rewards plus 1x Bilt points. But I tell you what, man, let me bring up Reddit, and my favorite place to go and hang out. And I know a lot of people know that I'm active in the Bilt Rewards subreddit. I have mixed amount of tongue-in-cheek with professionalism, which, maybe continues to get me in trouble, continues to have me applauded. I'm not really sure. But I just want to quote from the very first comment when a Redditor posted that Southwest up to 100% transfer bonus. Here, let me pull this up. It's a pretty long quote. All right, here it is. End of quote. Southwest Bilt Rewards up to 100% transfer bonus. What do you guys think? First quote. Useless. The end. Thank you, Reddit, for always dashing my hopes and dreams. Like, can you imagine writing useless on up to 100%, regardless of what your feelings are in Southwest?
I just appreciate that somebody else besides me is dashing your hopes and dreams. So
yeah, that's great. There you go. So, all right, should we talk about, is it Morocco or is it Western Sahara?
Sure. But I will say, just as a reminder to folks, don't forget to play the rent day bonus game and get your chance to win some free points.
You get free points. Top 10 get free rent. In addition, the top 10 this month get your student loan payment for the months taken care of. Actually, I think it's up to $2,000 on your student loans. So doubling up on the top 10 prizes.
The wonderful world of the internet says that you pronounce it Dakhla. Yeah, but spelled Dakhla. And our buddy Ben at 1 Mile at a Time wrote up this very, very interesting route. January 2025, Ryanair launched a new route between Lanzarote and Dakhla. Airport codes ACE, Alpha Charlie Echo, and VIL, Victor Indigo Lima. Lanzarote is in the Spanish Canary Islands.
Is it Lanzarote or Lanzarote? I don't know.
How do you pronounce? See, this is the way we work it here on the Miles to Go podcast. Very professional. Lanzarote. All right. Well, there you go.
One of them. Yep.
Yeah, there's some big words there. I make myself sound like a moron every single week on the Miles to Go podcast.
I just heard it a few times because isn't there like a random Ritz-Carlton out there? No, wait, that's not the Canary Islands. That's over in the Azores. That's the random Ritz. Sorry, Atlantic Island chains. Wow, we've really gone off the rails here. Anyways, tell me about what is it? Dakhla?
Yeah, apparently this route is featuring a 9% load factor. And then for those that don't know the term load factor, that means that 9% of the seats on the plane are going out full. Since Airbus flies a lot of, call it like Airbus 320s that are probably, 160, 170 seats. That means that there are, like 15 people on these planes. So with 38 rows, that means every passenger gets 2 rows to themselves. So pretty special stuff. Ben notes that the route is subsidized to some degree and almost has to be. But I mean, how much does it cost to fly a plane these distances, and how much subsidies could they possibly put on this route to make it worth it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So if I find the disputed territories of the world very interesting that it still exists in 2025. We haven't figured this out. Several, city states and island nations and all kinds of, enclaves and things that are out there. But this is a port city on the Atlantic Ocean. It is right in the middle of the country of Western Sahara. Something else I learned today, in addition to, did you know the official name of Western Sahara, the country?
No.
Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic.
Okay.
Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, also Western Sahara and Morocco, both claim this. Now, this Dakhla is not close. I mean, it's close to Morocco, but it's a solid distance away, like in the southern end of Western Sahara. But the Moroccans claim it. It was an old Spanish colony, apparently it's like the windsurfing capital of the world, and then Dakhla, Morocco decided to pay Ryanair to subsidize this route. To come in here, there was a 1991 UN negotiated ceasefire when the Spanish pulled out in the 70s. They were kind of like, okay, what now? In both Western Sahara and Morocco fighting over this thing. So I just find it fascinating, man, that I've never heard of this city in this space. Again, I'm not a professional windsurfer, but apparently they've all heard about it. And what a cool dot line and destination. Shout out to those podcast guys. That would be to have, if you flew this Ryanair flight and had, 18 rows to yourself in order to do it. So any plans to fly here and do a little bit of windsurfing on the coast of the, I already forgot what it was, the coast of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic?
Sadly, no plans, but definitely would do it for sure. So yeah, and I will say, since you're mentioning dots, lines, and destinations, I was texting messaging on Instagram with our buddy Seth over there, who's supposed to fly the Air Inuit 737-200 with the gravel kit yesterday.
Sold it.
And had a maintenance delay and ultimately had to cancel.
Rejected takeoff.
Rejected takeoff. Yeah.
Sold it.
Yeah, no, I don't have any specific plans to try to book this route. Oddly enough, tickets are pretty cheap. I did look at fares, and you can fly it for about $20. But definitely a very interesting route.
I wonder if you go through Moroccan immigration or Western Sahara immigration and what the requirements are to enter. I don't know, man. I'm going to check out this a little bit. Maybe time for an adventure here.
I think all those answers are yes. And always time for an adventure. Although hopefully I can get a couple more nights of sleep after the Freddies, and then we can talk about adventures. Let's touch on a quick Slack question, and then I want to finish up with American Airlines. We'll hold Hilton for another week because I think they'll still be trying to screw their members out of late checkouts.
I don't necessarily agree with that opinion, but we'll talk about it.
All right, fine. For folks who are not aware, our Slack community is a way you can help support the show, help us with video production costs, all that good stuff. Big thanks to our Slack members, Michelle W., Nate, Nate PGH, Kobe, Sean M, and Paige, who's our question this week. She lives in Texas, and she has a choice between two options to get to Italy this summer. She lives in Texas, and she gave us two choices. She will have a lap infant with her, if that helps any, Mr. Kerr. And choice number one would be 40,000 miles to fly premium economy on KLM with $190 in various fees, or 57,500 points. She doesn't say what currency specifically, but to fly business class on British Airways with $754 in fees. I'd say with 57.5, that's probably American.
That's American with the 754.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So you've got those two choices, and I'm curious what your choice would be given those two options.
Yeah, I'm not paying $754 in YQ, so we're gonna go premium economy for $190. Now you do have a lap infant, but you can get that bassinet seat up at the bulkhead, which will take that lap infant out of your lap. You will have to pay 10% of the adult fare, which put your finger up in the wind because you never know where that's going to come out for these programs. But I'm just simply not paying $754. Plus, business class on British Airways, very much a toss-up. You could be 8 across, and I just don't want to fly 8 across business. So going premium economy, KLM all the way.
Yeah, 8 across doesn't bother me as much as it bothers you. I know
it's because I am 3 of you physically. So
I was going to go 2.25, but I mean, sure, whatever, I struggled with this one because of these two choices. I actually gave her a third choice. It does stretch out the trip over, but I would actually fly, especially with the lap infant, I'd fly from Texas to New York, stay overnight, and then take the morning flight to London, and I would fly in a lower cabin of service. And then from there on to Italy. It adds a day to the total transportation time for sure. And it adds some mild cost for a hotel room on the way over. But with a lap infant, if you haven't done a ton of those flights, I would be reluctant to test the lap infant's patience with a red-eye flight in premium economy. So I think if the lap infant wasn't in the mix,
bassinet,
I would certainly lean more heavily towards premium economy. I hate the fees on the British Airways ticket, and I'm not sure that I would pay it, to be honest. I think if presented with these two choices, I would find another way to get there.
No, man, get the bassinet seat and you're good. I would change my travel dates if a bassinet was not available, but you got a pretty good shot of a bassinet being available.
I got to tell you, I mean, like, we tried the bassinet with our kids and they just didn't like it. They wanted to be in our arms. So I don't know. I mean, I guess every
Sleep
parent
sack.
knows their kids. Every parent knows their kids, and I think you'll know if your kids are gonna sleep in a bassinet or a sleep sack or whatever. And I think the more amenable your kids are to sleeping in interesting places, the better the premium economy choice is. I think, if I couldn't get the right itinerary for the right price, I'd probably go to the beach. But I think I would also consider just slowing the itinerary down and maybe taking the day flight.
My answer is none of the above. Go to the beach. That's not the question.
I know. I make up my own answers, Mr. Kerr. We understand this.
How much you wagering on that double jeopardy there, Ed? Can't answer another question.
All right, let's finish up with American Airlines, and we'll put a couple links in the show notes to these offers. But there's a couple very interesting offers out there right now, and both of these came from Ben at 1 Mile at a Time. One of them is almost a 2-for-1 offer where folks are getting targeted for, if you're spending on American Airlines credit cards, you can earn a loyalty point for you and for the authorized user on the card. So effectively, you and a significant other can both earn elite status at the same time. And then some really aggressive, in my opinion, bonus points offers. And so in these cases, it's, one offer was earn 125,000 loyalty points, and you can either give away status to someone else. At that point, at 125,000 points, you're at Platinum Pro status with American Airlines. Or they'll give you 75,000 loyalty points to get to Executive Platinum. And then some smaller ones where earn 40,000 loyalty points, get 30 or 35,000 loyalty points. These are pretty significant offers to earn status. And I think without editorializing too much at the outset here, I'd say, you and I know that like the loyalty point scheme has definitely weakened the value of Executive Platinum status in terms of like number of upgrades you'd get, stuff like that. But I don't know, man. What's your opinion on these massive offers?
First of all, it's targeted, right?
To some degree, yes. Like, we don't know how widely targeted. Like, I wasn't targeted for it. The only thing I'm targeted for right now is a reasonable offer on one of my American Airlines cards. I can earn up to 15,000 loyalty points for hitting different spending thresholds. So I got something, but not anything as nice as this.
I didn't get anything, but I also don't have an American card right now because when are you bringing back Atlanta LaGuardia American one day? Yeah, I mean,
Give it up, Richard.
I can't. It was just the best.
Apparently.
I flew that American E-175 to Chicago this week, and I was like, man, I miss this so much. What a great plane. I mean, if they're seeing softening, then what are you going to do to encourage people to further engage in your ecosystem? Even if they're not flying your planes, they're earning loyalty points, which is making you money because that's why the whole loyalty point scheme exists. So anything you can do, even if people aren't traveling, to get them engaged in your program is a great thing. If you're counting on upgrades as a part of domestic elite status these days, I think you've missed the mark for anybody out there that you're just not going to get them. So not too worried about that because the other benefits are pretty much guaranteed with Executive Platinum. And I think it's a smart move by American. I'm just a huge fan of that loyalty program model they came up with. It's such a win for how loyalty programs, I think, should be designed.
Yeah, I agree too. I think, there's a couple of things here. I mean, it's a little bit vague in these offers because I wasn't targeted for them. I assume that if you're getting the bonus loyalty points for these offers, you're also getting the bonuses that come with the status. So, I mean, there's some good targets there. We've talked about how I think 250,000 loyalty points is a sweet spot. So if you're at 125,000 loyalty points and you get 75,000 bonus loyalty points, now that 250 threshold is, within reach. And, while upgrades aren't as valuable as they used to be by any stretch of the imagination, you're still earning more miles. You still have, great one world status for international travel. So there are benefits to Executive Platinum status. I think two things. First off, it really does feel like around the edges, things are starting to slow down. It's not just these offers with American. I've seen on a handful of my flights, I'd say 4 of my last 5 flights have had noticeably empty cabins. Not completely empty, but, a couple of United flights where there are probably 30, 40, 50 middle seats empty on a plane, which is something I hadn't seen in years. I think I mentioned to you earlier this week, I cleared my first complimentary upgrade in or out of Las Vegas on a, lengthy route in what has to be 6, 7, 8 years, something like that, a long time. And so like these offers sort of like smell like maybe American feels like they're not on track from a loyalty status standpoint. And like one other point I'd offer here, just from an interesting standpoint, I took a look and I'm just going to pull up the number so I have them in front of me. But you know how United made a bunch of credit card changes recently, and part of those changes was the ability to earn more PQPs with your card. So in the past, PQP earning with credit cards on United was, was a fairly small thing. So far this year through April, I have 2,500 PQPs earned through spend on their card. And the only thing I put on their card are my airline tickets. So it really does feel like at a 10,000 foot level, both American and United are making it a little bit easier to earn status. And to me, that somewhat aligns with, okay, things look like they're getting a little bit soft and they want to try and keep people engaged.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any of the softening either in my flights, unless it's a 11 p.m. departure out of Atlanta to, what is the 80th flight of the day to New York. It's the only time I've seen empty seats. Otherwise, hotel rates continue to be high. Again, I was number 20 on the standby list to get back to Atlanta. So, man, I hope for that, just for a little bit of, again, less stress with maybe an empty seat next to me. But I'm not counting on that anytime soon, given my personal travels between the great cities of Atlanta and the mediocre city of New York.
Yeah, it's interesting that we're seeing, different pictures at the moment. I'll be curious to see where we sit 2 or 3 months from now. Guidance from the airlines, right now, generally speaking, isn't overly positive, but it's going to be interesting to see.
They've all dropped it, right? A couple earnings calls last week, and I think both Southwest and United matched Delta in dropping their guidance.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's going to be interesting to see how airlines deal with this because, as you well know, the requirements for top tier status on United and Delta are quite high in terms of the number of dollars you need to spend. American's really the only one of the big 3 that has this model where I won't necessarily say you can easily achieve Executive Platinum. It still takes work, but the amount of qualifying status points that you can earn from not flying is significantly higher there than it is on United and Delta, just the different paths that are there. So
yeah,
I would
remind me again, top of my head, just
the ball top of the head.
Yeah. Delta, I think, is 15,000 MQDs for Platinum and 28 for Diamond. Is it that big of a jump?
It's 28 for Diamond. I'll look up Platinum.
I should know this off the top of my head. I am 36 MQD short of 10,000. Oh, here it is. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's 10,000 gold, so I'll be that after next flight. I don't see any problem hitting platinum, but it looks like I'll probably on pace right now to be sitting around probably like 23,000 MQDs, which is 5,000 short of diamond.
Oh, you better hit diamond if you're going to be 23,000. You better find a way. You better find a way.
That's
That's like
$5,000, man. I don't know. Like, and again,
that's like 7 delays.
yeah. How many more delays are each time? I have never held Delta Diamond status, despite living in Atlanta.
Really?
Never been. I mean, it's never been easy to hit.
Yeah.
Without that corporate account behind you. And again, I haven't been a hardcore, and I've still flown. Like I just said, I flew American up to Minneapolis because Delta was $8 gajillion. So I don't know, man. It'll be interesting to see, how travel. I really don't want to keep this pace the rest of the year, so I do not see myself hitting diamond if I had to make a call right now.
Yeah. Well, I fully expect my pace to continue for a little bit longer. Hopefully, not as brutal as this week was. As I mentioned to you earlier, I slept 9 hours Saturday, which I think is the longest I've slept since Clinton was president. So after not sleeping more than 5 hours on any night all week, 9 hours was a 2020, maybe the whole decade record for number of hours of sleep. So I'm hoping things slow down at some point too.
Probably not.
So you have about time recording 10 a.m. You have call it 65 hours to decide if you're putting a microphone in your suitcase and we're recording in Chicago when you get the Freddie Awards, albeit an hour late based on your delay, or if we're recording next weekend. So I'll leave that with you. But Mr. Kerr, barring something drastic, I am going to see you in just a few days. And I bet you your beard, according to Sandra, is going to look exactly the way it looks right now.
Yep. Trim it up before the big public appearance there in Chicago with the loyalty diehards of the world.
Yep, that's true. We're going to have a good time. Chicago Athletic Association is our host hotel this year. That is my travel for this week. Only Chicago, only one destination, Mr. Kerr. But I'll be waiting there for you. Maybe we can go to Donut Plant, which is one of my favorites in Chicago. Very, 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 very aspiring.
I don't know where all the spare time is going to be that you're talking about between recording podcasts and donut shop visits. Like,
and the actual Freddy's, too.
I mean, the actual Freddy's, yeah.
Right.
I think my schedule right now is land, put on a jacket, go to Freddy's, go to sleep, go to airport. That's the schedule.
You forgot the running from the airport when your flight lands late, so just don't forget that part.
I really hope not, man. I mean, I showed you guys last night. I, in true me fashion, have not booked my flight to Chicago because it's just not worth the constant changes. But Delta right now, $1,057 round trip Atlanta to Chicago. Where's this softening demand? I don't see it here in the Atlanta market.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that's also half the price of what United is charging for the same route. So, double the price of what United is charging for the same route, same date. So, and you found a fairly affordable flight on yet a third carrier to be named later. Yeah. At any rate, I can't wait to see you. I'm really looking forward to spending quality time with you, Mr. Kerr.
I'm looking forward to.
Was that believable?
Throwing M&Ms at you on the stage because I don't have to do anything and you got to do a lot.
And sadly, there are no M&Ms this year. There'll be other things you can throw at me on stage, though, and I'm sure that there will be plenty of partners in crime for you. I'm sure you'll be sitting near Mr. Julian Keel, who will be right nearby, ready to throw M&Ms. But understanding the villains that you are, I've excluded projectiles from the audience this year.
Probably put us in the back corner, which is fun.
Well, at the time that this episode drops, we will be about 36 hours ahead of a Slack community meetup. So if you're in the Chicago area and you want to join us, maybe shoot us a note. Love to have you as a member of the Slack community. You can come meet us in person at the show. And we've got about a dozen folks who are going to be from the Slack community who are going to be meeting us, meeting me Thursday night. Because unfortunately, Mr. Kerr, you got to go.
I got to go because I got to go to Europe and I need to go home before Europe.
Well, you might want to go ahead and pack that bag and press that button and book a ticket. Hopefully, maybe you grab a hotel room along the way. Mr. Kerr, in a mere 72 hours, I can't wait to see you. But until we upload again, we've got miles to go. All right, let's do it.
I like how you have to stretch. You got to stretch before podcasts. That's good. I mean, stretching never hurts anybody. It's good for you no matter what you're doing.